Zimri was the Korban. And how was he the Korban? Because he was a tzaddik, so he therefore fell into this sin so that Pinchos should kill him so that the migration should stop.
That's interesting. But I didn't see that anyone should say that. That's interesting.
He's committing suicide.
That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. That's an interesting thought.
Okay.
Like a scapegoat.
What? Okay. Now. Speaking of antinomianism, we keep speaking about this. Of course, I need to deflate everything and not let everyone get carried away. So I just want to make the point. I keep saying that whatever he says, the Meshiloyach and the Visyankiv and the whole business, Ishbitzer Torah, antinomianism, it doesn't mean that everyone could just run around doing Avedis, Chas v'Sholom, and we could just say that everything is just from the will of God. Look, I'm not trying to preach here. God knows I'm in no position to preach to anybody. But I'm just trying to be honest to the text to the best of my ability. So the whole thing works with very strict limits, and it's all about a big tzaddik and things like that. So I just wanted to point out what they say in these from what the Bisyankiv says and Tzaddik has shtikel on it about people who say that, well, everything's from God, so let's just do whatever we want because everything's from God anyway. This, they say, is and the parsha of Amalek at the end of the Shalach, the Bisyankiv says. Bisyankiv says. Here's the shtikel here. Bisyankiv says. Okay, I'm not finding it now, unfortunately, but basically, they say in the Svarim, the Bisyankiv says, and they say in the Svarim that that's basically the clip of Amalek. That Amalek says everything is from God, and I am the way I am because God wants me to be this way, so let me not do anything. What's the difference? I could be as evil as I want because it's all from God. So in other words, they say that's such a korcha baderech that everything becomes kal because they just say that everything is from God. So basically, in the Ishbitzer Svarim, it's bavura that to take this shtikel Torah and say therefore we shouldn't be over Hashem. Therefore, we shouldn't be over Hashem because nothing matters anyway because everything is from God. My mitzvahs are from God. My averis are from God. It's all the same. That's the clip of Amalek. But that's the clip of Amalek to take it in that way, the evil side of that. I once heard the Ritz Kutner Zatzal talking about it, and he said that I remember that he said that Amalek macht sich für eine Edelkeit. That Klal Yisrael says an Edelkeit is a problem, an Edelkeit klappe Meile. We know that the Indian of Amalek is that Reishis Goyim Amalek, they say like they're the real Yidden. That Reishis Goyim Amalek, instead of they want to say that instead of the Yidden being the Chorim, the closest to God, they're Reishis Goyim, they're the closest. So they say that's the Klippa because they say they're more edel than the Yidden because the Yidden say Hakel b'dei Shemayim chutz m'Yiras Shemayim. The Amalekim say Hakel b'dei Shemayim and Yiras Shemayim b'chlal also. Hakel b'dei Shemayim and Yiras Shemayim b'chlal also. Everything is b'dei Shemayim. It's all b'dei Shemayim. It doesn't matter what you do. And he was Medayik. They bring that it says in the pasuk when Agog came before Shmuel after Shaul speared him, so it says in the pasuk Vayelech Agag Madanis that he was walking to Shmuel. He had no choice. He walked the Pashat Pshat against Madanis. It's like perhaps mincingly as a edel, but he went Madanis and he came to Shmuel by Yishas of Shmuel Sakok, and Shmuel dispatched him. So I heard the Bitzchutnas Atzal say, "Vayelcha Gag Madanis." The Rishonim say that Madanis over there means Keiten, chains. So as gegangen in sein Mechir, gebunden in Keiten, that he was chained up. He walked slowly and mincingly because he was chained up. But he said Madanis is usually a lashon like Adinus, like a lashon of Edelkeit. So the Kfart a lashon from Edelkeit. He said that's the Ein of Amalek. Vayelech Agag Madanis. He was going to die, and he said to himself, "I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I can't do anything to save myself. It's from God." Mit an Edelkeit. He held that for him to go to his Mechiyah, that's an Edelkeit. To say that I can't do anything, to say that everything is divinely determined and I can't take any action on my own behalf, that's the pseudo Edelkeit of Amalek. That's the pseudo Edelkeit of Amalek. It's nicht kein Edelkeit. Think it's a chutzpah mal. The Eibster created the world like this. The Eibster created you with an Orla. Why are you removing it? That's Gavaldim. That's I'm sure they say that. I'm sure they say that. That Amalek says without avoid is better. Without avoid is bigger amunah. Faith not worse. Without avoid is bigger amunah. Without avoid is God made it this way. Leave it this way. The Yidden say that God made the world with kasrainis and things that we taken today that we should be massacred. Amalek says everything is the way God wants it. There's no fight. There's no reason to fight. Good and evil. There's no reason to fight. There's no fight. Why fight? Everything is the way. And so. I want to bring out, it's very darkistic. They have all these Ishbitzer Torahs, but if you're going to go take it Lamaisa, that's already Amalek. You got to be very careful. Okay, so I wanted to say something in general about this whole business of antinomianism, which we seem to discuss endlessly, which we seem to find so fascinating.
How do you define it?
Antinomianism means a kind of religious tendency, which dispenses with the rules and works with some inspiration. Christianity vis-a-vis Judaism is often described as an antinomian reaction against the law, faith not works, that sort of thing. So this kind of title that we're talking about is antinomian, is saying that sometimes you can just divine the divine will without needing to rely on the rules that are laid down in text and so on. Sometimes the rules can be superseded by some kind of inspiration. So concerning antinomianism in Hasidic works, a young man of my acquaintance who is present here today, and whom I hope I may be privileged to call my friend, asked me a number of times, like, what's up with the whole Chassidic antinomianism? I mean, basically you need to be kind of the Torah anyway. So, like I'm saying, even the Meshloach and the B'syankiv and B'tzadik and all of them all put together would all agree that you need to be Mekayim Ad B'chalk Shtikel Aruch. So, what's all this Hakarah? What's really the point? So of course, if from the perspective of a Maimon, and what other perspective is possible? From the perspective of a Maimon, of course, it's wichtig, it's important to know about this because it's the emes and Torah. If it's the emes and Torah, it's the emes and Torah. But going beyond that, just on a simple level, I would assume that all this talk about mitigation of sin and finding redemptive elements in sin and seeing sin as sometimes being determined by God, I would assume that there's a certain amount of chizik involved here, that one winds up knowing that the system is set up in such a way so that one is never really removed from God at any point. At least when you do tshuva, then you find out that you are connected to God even at the time of the chet, and then retroactively looking back on it, you come to believe and know that the chet was also from God, and so on. So I would assume that there's a certain amount of chizik, positive energy, and that sort of thing, so that people don't become overly discouraged. An infusion of positive energies, that people don't become overly discouraged by the innate human tendency to sin and fall spiritually. I would assume that that's an obvious explanation as to what these Sforim and these Rebbes wanted with this sort of thing to a large extent.